everybody. All right. Welcome back, guys. This is week 4's. Yeah, week 4's group meeting. Yeah. So let's get in there with everybody, shall we?
My costume transfer.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
I got more friends coming in.
Ooh, yay. Excellent. I was like, the moment that I, went deaf or what, like deafened in Discord, I was like, oh, now everybody's showing up. Got it.
We weren't gonna leave you alone.
Oh, well, thanks.
Tim said to be back on in a little bit.
Oh, okay. Checking that. Okay, cool. All right. Mork and I were kind of talking about this before you guys got here a little bit, but did we all agree that these were some long chapters?
Oh my god, they were.
Like, I don't know. Like, I actually ended up reading this on Sunday because normally I do my personal readings on Thursdays on stream. But like, I came home from work Thursday and was absolutely dead to the world. Like, I was just like, nope, I'm out. Like, I watched, I think, Great British Baking Show or something. And then at like 9 o'clock, I was like, I'm going to bed. And best decision ever. I needed that night of sleep. But like, I knew obviously I needed to get my reading done. And Sunday ended up being that day. Which was good. Like, I definitely slept well, and it also meant that I was very refreshed for reading this on Sunday. But man, these were some thick chapters with like 4 C's, man. Like, whew. And they were dense, like very wordy, very descriptive. I probably am gonna have to go reread chapter 8, to be completely honest. But with the spiders, but I did think that chapter 7 was cool. And so so let's start with chapter 7. Obviously this week's reading was chapter 7 and chapter 8. So we had Beorn and we had spiders. Okay. I love in chapter 7, right out of the gate, he's hoping for home. Like, he's wishing for home. And because I keep saying this every week, but ever since Yoren mentioned that, where Bilbo talks about home all the freaking time, I am making note of it now. Like, I am very aware when it's like, hey, I'm thinking of home. I'm thinking of my comfy bed. I'm thinking of my breakfast. I'm thinking of my this and that. And it's like, boom. Literally, second sentence. Yeah.
Should be a drinking game.
We would all be under the table. Maybe not Tim. But like, I think all the rest of us would be under the table. And just deceased. Let's see. Let's see, where was it? There was a line. Oh, I've seen this line before. Like, I'll, Pinterest like Lord of the Rings quotes, right? For cool like quotes for Instagram or whatever, right? And I've seen this line before, but it was really cool to see it in the actual like text. Excuse me. For me, it's on page 104. May the wind under your wings bear you where the sun sails and the moon walks, answered Gandalf, who knew the correct reply. And like, obviously that's in response to the eagles. And I was like, what a cool, like, farewell, well wishes. Like, instead of just saying like, have a safe trip. Like, obviously he's talking to eagles, so wind and flying and carrying them and stuff. But I don't know, it just was like, what a cool line. I thought it was cool to actually see it in the flesh versus just like on a Pinterest graphic. And then the next paragraph, this was cool because obviously with my knowledge with the movies, I was like, ooh, this is neat. Is the whole Like, and so they parted, and though the Lord of the Eagles became in after days the king of all birds and wore a golden crown and his 15 chieftains golden collars made of the gold that the dwarves gave them, Bilbo never saw them again, except high and far off in the battle of 5 armies. But as that comes in at the end of this tale, we will say no more about it just now.
It's dropping a little teaser.
I loved that. Like, it's not that he's just dropping a teaser of, like, you know, the Lord of the Rings books. It's like, that's later in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. Tim isn't back yet, so maybe we'll have to ask him this when he gets back. But I don't know if this was like that, this paragraph, so to speak, was added in after he had finished the book, or if he had done so much planning, like Tag and Yoren have said that Tolkien did, for his books, that it's like, I'm almost wondering if he's like, well, I already had the ending finished, so I'm gonna throw this in now, kind of thing. But
I do believe that was something he intended.
Oh, hi, Tim.
Hello.
We said we needed to have a drinking game for every time Bilbo mentions something about home. And I was like,
I know, I heard.
Oh, you heard. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I just have it muted because I was doing some stuff around the
Oh,
house.
okay.
I just got home from work.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was like, we'd all be under the table. Not Tim, but we'd all be under the table. I say that with
So
love.
who was the king of all birds before the Lord of the Eagles became the king of all birds? Like, what other bird was like a turkey or something that was the king that got supplanted by the eagles?
Is that ever mentioned?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm not even sure there was one. I mean, I could cross-reference, but I don't feel like doing that right now.
You're good. So do we theorize that potentially the Lord of all birds title was given to this bird and he was the first? Potentially?
It's quite possible. I would say it's likely something that was bestowed upon him because of his helping of the dwarves and the Battle of the 5 Armies.
Makes sense. Let's see. What was the next thing I liked here?
The naked dwarves bathing in the river?
Oh, that was, yeah, they were like, oh, I feel so refreshed. Oh, I settled dip in the river. I don't know why I went into full British mode there.
Yeah, they're dwarves. You have to do Scottish.
Oh, my bad. I will say, like, I know we'll get to this in various chapters and stuff. Gandalf is savage in these 2 chapters. Like, he is a spicy old man in these 2 chapters. And like this paragraph where he's I always meant to see you all safe, if possible, over the mountains. And now, by good management and good luck, I have done it. And he's like, I may look in on you again before it is all over, but in the meantime, while I have some other but in the meanwhile, I have some other pressing business to attend. Like, I'm just like, you snarky old man. And like, there's so many lines in these 2 chapters that are just like, yikes. Like, Gandalf just mic dropped.
He needed a break from dwarves.
I
clearly.
guess so. Like, heesh.
This dude is on the move the entirety of these 2, like The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. He does not stop moving the entire story.
Yeah, he is. He's making some tracks.
Gandalf has that hustle.
Yeah, he's on it. Let's see. Yeah, and then but then I told when Kieran and Breg were here for Nights of Winter on Saturday, we were talking about, like, I was talking with Breg about where we were in the reading and stuff. He's like, oh, you're coming up on Beorn. He's like, I really like him. He's really cool. He's like, you're gonna enjoy that chunk. And I was like, oh, okay. And and I thought there were so many cool things about like their interaction, but also I have one slightly negative comment about the whole Bayorn interaction, but we'll get there a little bit because we gotta get to Bayorn first. Like, let's see. So Bayorn's mentioned, like, where they're like, oh, his name is Bayorn and he's a skin changer. And then it's like Bilbo's like, what? A furrier? A man that calls rabbits
Ponies.
conies when he doesn't turn their skin into squirrels at Bilbo. And then this whole next chunk from Gandalf again is just another like, wow. You know, he's like, good gracious heavens, no, said Gandalf. Don't be a fool, Mr. Baggins, if you can help it. And in the name of all wonder, don't mention the word furrier again as long as you are within 100 miles of his house, nor rug, cape, tippet, muff, nor any other such unfortunate word. I'm like, oh my goodness. I just found that funny because it's like, do not mention anything involving like, you know, an animal becoming an inanimate object.
Yeah. Although it's funny too because Sam calls rabbits conies, at least in the movie, right? It's like or I think in the books too, where he wish he had a thing of conies. So it's apparently Sam is a furrier.
Well, conies are also, it's a nickname in British vernacular for rabbits. I think that's where Coney Island gets its name.
Oh, interesting.
Also, I wanted to show you this because I'm not sure who amongst you has the illustrated novel. So, one sec while I turn on my camera. Because the interior of Bayorn's Hall.
Ooh.
Tell me that's not fitting for the Hearthguard.
I do have that in this chapter. I do have the illustrated copy. I do have those copies now, but mine has the same one except it's in black and white. In the one that I'm reading out of. These were ones that I had gotten from my favorite used bookstore back in Knoxville, and I'm reading out of them because I'm like, well, I got them for relatively inexpensive, so I can kind of, you know, beat them up a little bit, you know, from reading and stuff versus my really nice bougie copies, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. Here's to you guys.
Go.
Let's see. But that is pretty seeing it in because like I said, I have mine in black and white, so it's cool seeing it in full color. That is neat. And I did think the moment I saw that picture, I was like, that is very like Longhouse vibes. And absolutely. Let's see. Oh, and then do we know, Tim, since you're probably the most resident expert here in the chat, do we know if Bayorn did in fact come from the Misty Mountains? Like, has that ever been like solidified? This next part where Gandalf says, the day will come when they will perish and I shall go back. That is why I believe he once came from the mountains himself.
I do believe so.
Okay. I just found that interesting that, like, you know, it's so, you know, written out like that, like very intentional. Yeah. Because I definitely have learned that in these 100-some pages that Tolkien is a very intentional writer. Like, he doesn't just throw in details for the sake of throwing in some details.
Oh, very much so.
So it's like...
I have to switch out my headphones real fast. I'll be right back.
Okie dokie.
On speaker.
Let's see. And then, let's see. Now, the curious thing I just thought of this as well is this next part where Bilbo is describing the bees. He's saying that they're like super large and stuff and everything. I'm wondering if I'm thinking about it now. I'm wondering if that's relative because he's a hobbit or if they actually are bigger bees.
I think, well, he does compare them to like hornets. So he's like, they're bigger than hornets. The drones are bigger than your thumb. So, and I think as a narrator, it's Tolkien talking to us at that point. So they're bigger than our thumb.
Those are some pretty big bees then.
Yeah, they're like those Chinese killer bees kind of size.
One of those was in my toilet.
Ugh.
It was terrible. I was streaming that day. Little side tangent. I was streaming that day, and I went to go use the little Hobbit's room, and I was like, ah! Like, you know, just like, ah! And it was just there floating, and I was like, it got in my apartment somehow. Help! It was terrifying.
Good thing you didn't sit.
Oh, I didn't. I put toilet paper on top of it and flushed him. And then did my Hobbit-y business. And then went back to streaming. But I was like, how in the heck did that get in my apartment? Anyways, sorry. Tangent. Oh, this part, when I read it, I was like, Bomber just got called out, and and this happens several times in these 2 chapters where they just like absolutely lay the hurt on Bomber, and like Gandalf's talking about going in 2 by 2 and stuff and waiting 5 minutes and stuff, and he's like, but only in pairs, mind, about 5 minutes between each pair of you. Bomber is fattest and will do for 2. He had better come alone and last. And I'm like, Gandalf? Like,
He's fat shaming Bomber.
yeah, I was like, that's just mean. Like, and he does it again too in chapter 8 with the boat. I know they did it to him, like the other dwarves, but still, it's like another just call out on Bomber and stuff. And Bomber actually fights back a little bit in chapter 8, but I digress. But I was just like, Bomber. But then I do like skipping ahead a little bit when Bomber's like, I couldn't wait the 5 minutes, I just came in. Like, and I was like, good for you, Bomber, good for you. Yeah, but I did to your point, Tim, about the excuse me, the illustrated copy. I did like the very visuals of Beorn's like house and stuff, and his like setup with the animals and everything. Like, I really did feel like I was like walking through, you know, the house kind of thing, which was cool. And
oh yeah.
Yeah. And then
So one thing I read right before that section, which I find interesting, and I wonder how much it was where Tolkien may have changed kind of some of the lore, where, you know, Gandalf introduces himself to Bjorn, and he's like, you may not know who I am, but you might know my good cousin Radagast, who lives near the southern border of Mirkwoods. And he goes, yes, not a bad fellow as wizards go, I believe. You know, I think there's only 5 wizards, you know, in the traditional lore, 2 of which are the blue wizards who never show up in anything. There's not a whole lot of other wizards to choose from that, you know, how much do people know about wizards when there ain't that many of them?
do the without going down on a tangent here, because obviously if they're not mentioned, then, you know, or they never show up or whatever, where do we learn about what the blue wizards are? Is that the Silmarillion?
I think Saruman mentions them in Lord of the Rings.
Oh. Okay.
At some point.
Yeah, they have a larger part in the novels.
Oh, okay. So we'll get there. Okay. That's all. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole. I was just curious.
And then the Forgotten Tales will have a lot, or the Unfinished Tales has a lot of stuff.
Oh, interesting. I have those. I have that book.
So I'm just looking it up, and sorry, I was just doing some reference, and what I have doesn't say that Bjorn was from the mountains, but the Bjornings, the people he comes from, are the men of the Vales of Anduin, living on both sides of the river near the Carrock. The Bjornings were descended from the Edain, or their close kin, and thus spoke a language related to Anduinak, or Rohirric. At the time of WR, the Bjornings are not very friendly to any outsiders, but in return for tolls, they keep the high pass in the fort of Carrock safe for merchants. They greatly hated orcs. Yeah. So.
Interesting. I'm wondering.
It says here they may originally have come from the Misty Mountains whence they were driven by the orcs. So that would explain the animosity they he has towards them.
No kidding. Let's see. I'm looking at my, now that you're mentioning that. So I've got, so I have in my little Tolkien a dictionary that I had that came with like a bunch of Tolkien stuff I got a couple years back. So my little blurb about Beorn is Northman, Beorning chieftain. Beorn's people inhabited the northern Anduin Valley between the Misty Mountains and Mirkwood during the last centuries of the Third Age. He and his woodsmen guarded the ford of Karok and the high pass from orcs and wargs. Beorn was a huge black-bearded man who wore a coarse wool tunic and was armed with a woodsman's axe. He was a berserker warrior who had the gift of the skin changer, that is, transforming into the form of a bear. In the year 2941, Beorn gave shelter and protection to Thorin and company, and later fought with them in the Battle of Five Armies. In that battle, Beorn took on his bear shape and slew scores of orcs. And then it has a Beornings thing. Sounds like... I'm just like skimming it really quick. Talks yeah. So it looks like it reads a lot of the same similar things that you read. Anyways, yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah. For reference, this is the version I had for that, for any cross-referencing.
Oh, way cool.
So, yeah, I got that when I was really young, so I like going back over it sometimes.
Oh, for sure. I've really enjoyed having this. I admit I have not been using it as much since like our first 2 weeks of reading, but it's nice because like I can look up different things and like things like that, where it's like it gives a little bit more backstory than just, you know, what's in the books, which again is just cool that Tolkien had enough notes for there to be backstories, like, and like notes and others, like, you know, you said in the was it Unfinished Tales, like it's like he had enough notes and enough other things that there are these, you know, paragraphs in some cases of extra knowledge about things. I just think that's wicked cool.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like, you know, I don't think any author does that nowadays, at least not in the same capacity. Let's see. Oh yeah, so this well, one like I love this quote, made me chuckle. Well, to tell you the truth, I did not like to bother you with a lot of us until I found out if you were busy. I will give a call if I may. Like, it's like, well, now that you're not busy, now I'm gonna bother you. But for me, this chunk, and I was talking to Mork about this before starting the stream and stuff, but this whole chunk where Gandalf is recapping what happened and the dwarves are coming in 2 by 2 and blah blah blah. I know that at the very end, like I think Bilbo takes on, you know, he goes into narrator mode for Bilbo, and Bilbo's like, oh, I see why Gandalf did this. It means that Beorn's like more invested in the story and he's like more patient with us, you know, 14 of us being here and stuff. But I was like, man, dude, can we, like, we've lived it. We've already read what happened. Like, can everybody just come in now, please? So that definitely, like, for me at least, kind of dragged a little bit. And I was like, okay, can we get to the next thing?
Tolkien does that a couple of times through Lord of the Rings as well, where you're kind of like, yeah, we know what happened, and why are you explaining it in great detail to summarize what happened? He does it quite a few times.
Okay, noted. Be prepared. I mean, I'm not saying it was like necessarily a bad thing. It just was like, whew, you know. Yeah. And do we notice that dogs can walk on their back legs and hold things with their front feet? That was cool for me. It's like,
where's that?
For me, it's on 115.
It's in Bjorn's house when they're serving the dwarf and the Hobbit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
For me, it's right after one of the like paragraph breaks, whereas the extra space, there's the extra space between paragraphs. And let's see. Inside the hall, it was now quite dark. Beorn clapped his hands, and in trotted 4 beautiful white ponies and several large, long-bodied gray dogs. Beorn said something to them in a queer language, like animal noises turned into talk. They went out again and soon came back carrying torches in their mouths, which they lit at the fire and stuck in low brackets on the pillars of the hall about the central hearth. The dogs could stand on their hind legs when they wished and carry things with their forefeet. Quickly, they got out boards and trestles from the side walls and set them up near the fire.
I don't know if I'd like a dog that could move around and pick things up with their feet.
Yeah, Danny already gets into enough mischief being on 4 legs all the time. She doesn't need to be able to literally walk around like a human being.
My dog would be an absolute menace if they could do that.
Yeah, ditto. As she just goes off and does something. I don't know where she's going. Let's see. Yeah. I don't remember this, but is this next like song is this in the movies? This song
No.
It's not? So this was completely in the okay.
Hey, I don't even remember it in the animated film, and the animated films had tons of the music.
Yeah, like I said, I rewatched that I think Sunday, I think I said I did. And I was like, I forgot how, at least up until what we've read, I was like, I am really impressed with how close this is. And it was like I remembered it, which was also cool. Just because, I kept saying like, oh, I vaguely remember this from the animated movie, but I hadn't seen it in forever. So, and that was more of just like I don't remember this in the movie. Was it in the movie? I don't think so. Let's see. Yeah, it's like, I feel like
I actually don't remember Bjorn really being in the animated film.
I don't think he is in the animated one. Yeah, I don't think he's in the animated one at all. Now I have to
They
go.
totally Tom Bombadil'd him.
I have to go rewatch it.
I do believe so, but it's also funny because I was just thinking about it. If you look in the way they depict him in the Hobbit films, he's also depicted incorrectly because he's supposed to be a large, like, burly man with a large black beard and like black body hair and a simple tunic, and then they give him like the Wolverine sideburns and like this weird like mullet, like pompadour.
Yeah.
And all of his hair is like a golden brown.
Mm.
And it's like, it's not quite right, but I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, he's kind of giving me like Teen Wolf from the 80s movies, like vibes.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But no, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought of that, but that is a good point. Let's see. See, anybody? I'm skimming for my next like point. Does anybody else have anything that they really liked in this next chunk? Like after they wake up and it's breakfast, Feel free to jump in at any time. I'm skimming.
One thing I kind of never understood was whether Beorn was like all there when he's in his bear form. Like does he know friend from foe? Because he very explicitly tells them not to go outside at all.
That's a good point.
I don't believe he does. It's similar to the issue of berserkers from mythology is that they were just as much of a danger to their friends as their enemies, because once the berserker gang took them, they would be wild and unpredictable, and they can harm their friends just as easily as their foes because they're in this berserker rage and they're just there to kill.
That makes sense.
And especially since Tolkien took so much from mythology.
Yeah, good point.
Say the one dumb thought I had is when he's talking about picking out the bear tracks, and there must have been a regular bears meeting outside here last night. I couldn't help but thinking, if you go out in the woods today, you better not go alone. The whole teddy bear picnic time for teddy bears. I just had a picture of that in my mind and made me smile.
That's awesome.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Let's see. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it was cool how, like, Beorn mentions how, like, when you get to the edge of the forest, I can't really help you, but, like, while you're in the forest, like, I'll be able to kind of help you. And then obviously later on when they're traversing the woods and everything, like, Beorn was keeping a watchful eye, when he's got when the company has his ponies and stuff. And let's see, where was it? I know I'm skipping like a lot, but I feel like it's just a lot of extra. Unless there's somebody, like, unless somebody has like thing, but let's see.
Except for the stressing of once you go in the forest, do not stray from the path. That you must not do. They get told 7 or 8 times, and what do? They leave the path. Spoilers.
Shocker. Yeah. I did like how this part where it was let's see, where was it? Where does he send the horses back? This whole part where like, I hope you like the look of it. Now you must send back these excellent ponies you have borrowed. And like, he's saying Beorn's not as far off. Like, yeah, he's been keeping a watchful eye to protect us, but also to make sure that we like follow through on what we said and everything. And then it's like, we promised him that we would send him back. And then they were like, what about the horse? What about the horse then? Said Thorin. You don't mention sending that back. I don't, because I'm not sending it. What about your promise then? I will look after that. I am not sending the horse back. I am riding it. It's like, oh boy. And then, they're all carrying these really heavy packs. And then later down the page, and Bilbo's kind of complaining about it too. Thorin says, "Don't you worry," said Thorin. "It will get lighter all too soon. Before long, I expect we shall all wish our packs heavier when the food begins to run short." And it's like, that is very true. It's like, man, this is so heavy. It's like, yeah, it's heavy because it's laden with all of your snacks.
Good problem to have.
Right? Cookie time on the road. And then last thing for me in this chapter, if anybody else has something, by all means jump in. The last thing for me in this chapter was like one of the last paragraphs. Let's see. Like, Bilbo's asking Gandalf, is there no other way around? Do we have to go through this forest that apparently is so treacherous? There's no running water and and everything. And, Gandalf is describing like, well, you could go this way, you could go that way. And this is maybe not as, is it the first time? I don't know, but I do like that they bring up the necromancer, which in the Hobbit movies, like the recent, well, air quote, recent ones, it's like they also call him the necromancer. And like, I don't know, I guess before it could go south, maybe the land of the necromancer. Are they referring to Mordor, or is that somewhere else?
No, the Necromancer's Tower is in Mirkwood.
Oh. Okay,
It's
then.
the south part of Mirkwood.
Oh, okay. And so... Oh, go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
I was going to say, actually leading into the next chapter, and the spiders, part of the reason it's called the Mirkwood is because of the evil influence the Necromancer brought.
Oh,
and so the evil influence started to feed into it, and that's how you started getting evil creatures like the spiders.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, here's my idiotic, not a Tolkien expert question. The Necromancer is Sauron, right?
It's alluded to. I don't believe in the books it's fully fledged, but yeah, pretty much everyone just believes it to be.
Okay, because I know that in the movies, like in the various scenes that, you know, where like Gandalf and Galadriel and company are like fighting it, you know, there's the eye, but then there's a very clear image of Sauron like in the center of the eye. And then, okay, little tangent for 2 seconds, because I did not watch Rings of Power. And I've heard mixed things, so we don't need to go on the opinions of that show. But what is like the chain of command, if you will, between like Sauron and there's like other characters too that are on the like who serves who and who's who and like.
So in the current state, as far as Lord of the Rings, it would be Sauron is on top. Before Sauron, you had Morgoth, and before Morgoth, you had Iluvatar, who is the god. Basically, Morgoth is Satan, and Sauron is like Satan's second in command.
Okay.
But then you also had a great evil creature named Ungoliant who became a giant spider and thus birthed all the future evil spiders such as Shelob and the spiders in Mirkwood. Oh, and also, yes, the Necromancer is simply Sauron. Like, even in my cross-referencing, like, I'm seeing, yeah, it was always just Sauron.
So then... Okay, another not informed on Tolkien entire history and Lord of the Rings history. When do we learn about like Morgoth and stuff like that? Like in what is that in the Lost Tales, Unfinished Tales?
No, Morgoth is in the Silmarillion.
Ah, okay. Because I always wonder, you know, like with all this stuff coming out, you know, Rings of Power, etc. I'm like, okay, what book are they pulling from? Because obviously it's not called the Silmarillion TV show on Amazon Prime. It's, you know, it's just like how, you know, The Hobbit was The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings was Lord of the Rings. It's like, well, where are they pulling this from? So, okay, cool. Okay, that was a little tangent, but I like learning about this stuff.
Specifically for that show, that was pulled from the appendices, so it's not even a full book.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's basically notes. Pages of notes.
Interesting. Okay. Like I said, haven't finished it. I couldn't really get past like episode 2.
No one's judging.
I probably will eventually. You know, pick it back up.
You can hate watch it like some of the rest of us did.
I probably will. Okay.
If you can finish it, then you're a better person than I.
Oh, good. So I'm in good company then. The fact that I haven't finished it. Excellent. Okay.
I mean, looks absolutely beautiful. I love the costumes in it. They did some amazing stuff apart from the story. I can't poo-poo the whole thing because you can see the money they spent on it on screen.
Oh,
just
sure.
not the money they spent on the writers.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, if we have no other comments on Chapter 7, shall we move on to Chapter 8?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go! Chapter 8. Okay, I'm gonna need somebody else to kind of spearhead some of the stuff in Chapter 8, because I will tell you that I was getting, like, fatigued a little bit from the length of description, and so I didn't take as many notes in this chapter. Like, I didn't annotate as much. I did find it cool, though, that, Bilbo names his his sword in this chapter. And B, I actually think that in the animated 1977 movie, I actually feel like they did this scene, or that's a, you know, it's a long scene. Obviously, it's how many pages? 30 pages. But this whole spider escapade, it's like I feel like the animated movie actually did a really good job, like even down to the detail of the spider going up and like tickling Bomber's nose, and he like, you know, gets all freaked out and everything. Like it's, or whatever he does. There's like that line, or
Well, again, like I hate to harp on this again, but it's an issue of with the live action movies, the Peter Jackson ones, is that they were trying to stretch those out with more action scenes.
Yeah.
Because they saw the success of the original Lord of the Rings, and the studio wanted them to do more action. They thought that was what was successful about those, and not the character parts. Like all of the action in Lord of the Rings is all fed by amazing character work between the actors and the text of the script. And just it's turning the spiders into a pure action scene rather than it being what it is in the book, and even in the 77 film, it's kind of it's a missed opportunity. Because again, we've said this before, but these are stories for children, and if you look at them, they're really good when you just treat it like that. And these stories are amazing. They're great. Well, particularly The Hobbit. You don't have to make every villain into just an action set piece.
No, that's a good point. Especially because also you think about like giant spiders is like, that's a lot of kids' like worst nightmare anyways. So it's like,
yeah, a lot of people are already afraid of spiders. Why would you need to make that into a bigger problem?
Yeah, I mean, look at, you know, Harry Potter too, right? All the spiders in that too. It's like same thing.
I mean, look at a lot of like fiction and horror fiction. Spiders are a common thing in making evil creatures.
So to your point that you made earlier, because I skimmed something where it was like, oh yeah, Bomber like got like not like poisoned, but essentially poisoned in a way. But is this kind of again the whole thing of like that one stream, and you're saying that Mirkwood is like poisoned by the necromancer and stuff essentially? So is it like, is that why the river is toxic essentially? Is that it's evil?
Yeah, partially that. It's between the influence of the evil there, as well as just the sheer fact that there's the spiders running amok.
Ah, okay.
Because instead of being, I believe it was at one point, like the Great Forest, it became Mirkwood.
Although one thing that I think is weird about it is when they talk about the dreams that they had, you know, interesting. And I don't know if that's just the effect of the elves being there, that, yeah, he was unconscious for I don't know how many days when you read this, but, you know, he was like, oh, I had the most pleasant dreams while I was out, which is very uncharacteristic of, you know, the evil sleep that occurs in so many other stories where, you know, you're asleep and you're dreaming of horrible things, and nope, he's dreaming of food, which just seems, it's an interesting, which makes me wonder what the enchantments are really coming from, because like I said, it's very uncharacteristic of deep sleep enchantments in so many other stories to be dreaming of good things.
Well, that is a good point.
I do believe that might come from the elves, because taking from mythology, the elves at the beginning, especially in The Hobbit, are more akin to dealing with the Seelie and Unseelie court, where they can be both good and bad, and they're not necessarily the easiest to trust because they're magical creatures that aren't on the same level as everybody else. And because of the nature of their magic, they're just not it's not the thing you can take easy trust in.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, I could just be reading into it on that.
But that's the fun thing about books.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then I guess to that, like, because there's several times that they are chasing after the elf fire rings, right? Like the circles of fire, right? They're like tracking that through the forest. Isn't that? Am I remembering that right?
You are.
Oh yeah. They're following that in the song of the elves because, well, they're lost in the woods and they don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're remarkable at all sorts of things, but being amongst the woods is not the thing that they're renowned for.
The elves?
No, the dwarves.
Oh. I'm following you.
Yeah.
So then why are the lights, like the fire rings, are those like, are the elves actually like lighting them a path, or is it like, how is that? I don't
So I believe again it comes from the untrustworthiness of the Fae in mythology, where the elves they're leading them astray on purpose.
Okay.
Because, as though it's a trap, kind of like anglerfish, like in the deep sea, where they have the little light that hangs in front of them, and then
Oh yeah.
something gets closer and closer, and then they snap.
But they eventually, but it eventually leads them out, doesn't it? Isn't that the very end? They actually catch up to one of the rings. Didn't I remember that? Am I remembering?
Yeah, and then they're captured.
Oh, that's right. But this is another thing that I was like, wait a minute. In the movies, they're all captured together, whereas in the book, Thorin's captured alone. Right?
Look, I read this a couple days ago. Let me.
No, you're good. You're good. You're
That
good.
is true. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the movie as well, but definitely in the book, they get together after escaping from the spiders, and they're all like, "Oh wait, we should have counted better." Thor's not here.
Yeah.
And they do mention that that's the very end of the chapter where they're like, "Oh, we'll get back to where we got the rest of them lately, but shortly."
Yeah. And they have not name dropped the Elf King, right? Even though it's what's his face in the movies.
Thranduil.
No, yeah, they don't name drop him until later.
Okay. But then the big kerfluffle when the movies came out was that Legolas is not actually in the book.
Yeah, Legolas isn't in the book, nor is Tauriel, who is entirely made up for the sake of the movie.
She is?
Yes.
So her and what's his name's romance is made up?
Yeah, and that's again an entirely studio mandated thing.
Of course. We have to have a love story. It's a Romeo Juliet, like forbidden love. Oh.
I did think Tauriel was cool, but yeah, the love story was kind of forced.
It was forced, yes. But she is cool. I like her. Okay. Yeah, because like in this, obviously, like I said, it's like Thorin is captured alone, and then I thought in the movies they're all captured together. I thought, but maybe I'm remembering that. Maybe I'm just remembering the scene when the group of them is put into the cells.
I think you're right. I think they're all captured together except for Bilbo again.
Right, because he's the one that gets them out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, because of his prolonged use of the ring that he's able to get them out.
What do you mean prolonged use of the? What do you mean?
Spoiler.
Oh yeah. No, never mind.
Wow.
I was like, we're not there yet.
Wow. Okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I can't spoil that for you, buddy.
Okay. I do appreciate that. I'll be a good little fun thing for next week.
And I will say one of my favorite parts though from the end of this, and I get a kick out of this every time I read it, is when when Bilbo is insulting the spiders, and it's like, quite apart from the stones, no spider has ever liked being called Addercop, And Tom Noddy, of course, is insulting to anybody. So I'm thinking for the Hearthguard, like when we're in a shield wall, hurling insults across the field before fighting starts. We should start calling him Tom Noddy and Attercop, and I think we need to bring that back into normal usage. It's an insult.
Yeah, Attercop is a nice one that you don't hear enough.
What are as long as they're not TOS bad, but like what are they? Are they
just another word for spider. I mean,
okay.
that's why you have the D&D monster, the Ettercap. It's a bipedal spider creature, and they're nasty as sin.
Huh. That's cool. I'm assuming it's probably from a Latin origin of some form.
I actually think Ettercap is I think that's Old English.
Well, that makes more sense considering it's Tolkien we're reading. Still some kind of I was like Latin, Greek, like some kind of something.
Yeah, no, it's definitely made for what would you say, linguistic purposes.
Sure.
Yeah, it's an archaic noun of a spider or an ill-natured person.
Yeah, that's what I was just reading as well. So yeah, I think we need to bring that into insult the people we're fighting.
Apparently, it's also derived from an extinct genus of arachnids, so,
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, came from Old English, Attercoppa, poison head.
Ah, way cool. Yeah, I see the... I feel like I found the after part. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, it's like once again, Bill comes to save their butts. Yeah, I feel like I definitely need to, not necessarily this week considering I've got the trauma bonding event this weekend, but I feel like I definitely need to reread chapter 8 separately from chapter 7. I think in hindsight, reading two very detailed, dense chapters together was a lot. Like, maybe not necessarily like from a like page count, but just a like, wow, those were some heavy like chapters, and to have two of them, it was like, wow, woo-wee. But I definitely think I should reread chapter 8 because I'm like even just skimming over some of this to try and remember some of what happened, and I was like, ooh, I do not remember that.
Wait till we get to the Council of Elrond. You're gonna hate life.
Yeah.
Is it really that bad without spoilers?
Yeah. Notoriously long and lengthy and exposition heavy.
So we will be reading that chapter by itself.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because if I've learned anything from reading The Hobbit, which I know is the easier of the books because it's written for kids, then we need, like, any chapters you guys think in the future, even if they're shorter chapters by pages, but if you guys know that they are a dense chapter, we're going to read them alone. I'm making that declaration now.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Because like I'd rather absorb the stuff the right way versus like get to the second chapter or whatever and just be like, I am exhausted, like from the just like and also because this is my first time reading, I'm trying to really read, like really absorb, and so then I get to the second part and I'm like, I didn't consume that as well as I would have liked. Okay. Yeah, I'm curious. Chapter 9 is Barrels Out of Bond, which is obviously, as we know, when they go to the town and everything in the barrels and they ride the river down and all that jazz. But does anybody have any closing comments about these chapters? I know we kind of we spent a lot of our time in chapter 7 and less time in 8, but I feel like 8 was just like spiders, Bilbo to the rescue, spiders. Then
wood elves.
Well, yeah, and some wood elves in there.
Spiders, wood elves.
Pretty much. I mean, that's basically, you know, that's basically what this entire chapter was.
Yeah.
Anyways. Well, good. I this is why I love reading with reading through this with people who have read it before and or have like the knowledge like you have, Tim, or any of you guys have, where it's just, you know, that back, you know, like backstory, behind the scenes, you know, stuff. Like, because I obviously have never read the Silmarillion, haven't read is it Lost Tales or Forgotten Tales? I always get it wrong.
No, it's unfinished.
Unfinished.
Tale.
Well, I'm wrong completely. It's like I haven't read any of the extra stuff, obviously, because I have never read any of them. So like hearing all of your guys' insight into things and asking or answering my sort of kind of dumb Lord of the Rings questions, it's like really appreciate it because it's fun to hear all the, you know, things of how Tolkien actually thought through stuff and everything. So it's really cool. So I
mean, they're not dumb questions. They're legitimate questions. Like, if you want to know what you're asking about, then the best thing to do is ask people who've either read it before or people who have supplementary information that can help.
For sure. Let's see.
Never think of it as dumb.
True.
Don't put yourself down like that. And it's not just you. I mean, just anybody in general. It doesn't help to come at it thinking like, oh, I'm just ignorant. It's like, no, I might not know about this, but that's why you ask people who are more informed.
That is very true. Well, it looks like 9 and 10 look to be a good length because chapter 9 goes to 181 in my book, or sorry, chapter 10 goes to 181 in my book, and chapter 9 starts on 154. So that's like 40-ish page, or like a little under, yeah, a little under 30 pages. Yeah, which is like, I think about what we were trying to aim for originally. So unless, Tim, you've been paid a massive compliment from Sod in chat. He said Tim is a superior nerd because he called us all nerds. So you are the superior nerd, Tim, son of Tim. I guess unless there is, let's see, 90 to, that's 40 pages. Unless there is a reason that you guys think from your insider knowledge that we should also read chapter 11, which would probably not be good considering trauma bonding is this weekend. But if we think that 10 and 11 is, or 9 and 10, sorry, is an acceptable chapter length for this week, we can say that that is week 5's reading. Chapter 9 and chapter 10.
That works for me.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm all on board.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys. If nobody has any final comments on this week's reading, I guess I'll go wrap up. But thank you guys as always. And we shall reconvene in exactly a week after Gunmar and I literally and figuratively sort of kind of die at trauma bonding, but it'll be fine.
I am guys. I really wanted to go this time.
Yeah, I'm just thankful for my NPC status. That's all I'm gonna say. And I don't care what anybody says.
Sorry,
Well, I will see you guys in I don't know why Saad is saying I feel unappreciated, Tim, son of Tim, but I think it's because you didn't say anything to his compliment of you calling you a super nerd. But I digress. Okay.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, Saad. I didn't mean to leave you hanging there. Thanks, buddy. I mean, I don't think I'm superior to anybody.
You're just a superior nerd.
Drinking.
Oh my gosh. Well, he called you a superior nerd after calling us all nerds earlier. So, anywho. All right, guys.
No, I heard that. I didn't reckon it was an important thing to compliment or comment on. I'm sorry. Sorry, Sad.
He says you're welcome. All right. I will see you guys in exactly 1 week for week 5 group meeting. Thank you guys as always.
See you, Astrid.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye. All right, chat. So let me switch scenes here. All right, guys. Thank you for another awesome week of whatchamacallit, of our group meeting. I appreciate you guys all hanging out. If you want to catch up on any of our previous weeks of either group meetings or my comments on my personal readings week to week, you can go check out the other videos on my YouTube channel. If you're watching this in the future, you're already there, but this will be on my YouTube. This episode will be on my YouTube as well, in a playlist. So you can just go through the whole playlist. And I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video. And yeah. And if you guys are not already subscribed to the YouTube, please consider dropping a subscribe. I'm continuing to dip my toes into the further content creation game beyond beyond just Twitch. So if you'd like to follow along, I'd greatly appreciate it. I'm on all the things. And yeah, I will catch you guys on the next one.